Today, the 20th of July 2019, is the 50th anniversary of the day when man first set foot on the moon. 3 brave astronauts completed an epic round trip which would be remembered forever as one of the greatest adventures in human history. As a kid, I remember watching an 8mm home movie of the Apollo 11 mission in our living room. This sparked my imagination and led to my lifelong fascination with science, science fiction, and space travel. To thank these brave astronauts and the countless people behind the scenes in my own small and insignificant way, I decided to mark the occasion by building the oldest kit that I could find of the first time that man stepped on the moon. As an added challenge, I would only be allowed to use the original parts and instructions. When I searched on eBay, I was lucky enough to spot this 1986 release of a 48-scale Monogram diorama kit of the first lunar landing. The kit was pre-owned and the box was well worn, but the parts looked like they were in good shape and still in their original packaging. The styrene from which the parts were molded was a lot more rigid than that of more modern kits and relatively brittle, probably because of their age. However, the detail of the 2 astronauts and the kit in general was excellent. There was quite a bit of flash on the smaller parts which needed to be trimmed away during the build. When I inspected the base, I wasn't a big fan of the recessed shadow areas. I was proved wrong, however, when I did the base, as the recessed areas were a tremendous help during the painting process, and the finished base looked really nice. Also included in the box was a competition entry form. I could win a round trip to Florida to watch the space shuttle launch in October of 1987. Years holding thumbs. A sheet of gold foil was part of the kit, and it had demarcations at the back for the various sections which needed to be cut out and glued onto the surface of the lunar lander. There was also a full-color poster and a catalogue of other Monogram kits. A small baggie contained some stray parts which had separated from their sprue trees over time. The instructions were very basic, but they were well illustrated and easy to follow. I applied a coat of Tamiya gloss black to some parts of the lower descent stage of the lunar module. I cut out the sections of gold foil and scrunched them up a little. After applying some rubber contact cement, I glued these to the various parts of the descent stage according to the instructions. The bottom part of the descent stage was separated and trimmed and given a base coat of dark brown gloss acrylic. Once dry, this was followed by a coat of Tamiya gold leaf. The dark brown base coat helped to make the layer of gold paint look extra shiny. I applied a coat of flat varnish to all the patches of gloss black paint which were not covered by gold foil. This helped to dull things down a little and give the lem a more realistic look. I did the same to the engine nozzle of the descent stage. Some more gold foil had to be trimmed to cover the legs and landing pads of the lem. As before, I scrunched up the foil squares and glued them to the model using rubber cement. The legs were glued to the descent stage and I attached the landing pads. I didn't want to glue them yet, as they would need to be manipulated until they lined up with the base once the build was completed. The parts which formed the ascent stage were separated from their sprue trees and trimmed carefully. I applied a coat of gloss black paint to enhance the metallic look of the paint I would be using on subsequent coats. All the parts of the ascent stage received a light coat of Tamiya flat aluminium. These thin metal walls would be Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin's only safe haven on the hostile lunar surface for the 21 hours they spent on the moon. Some of the panels of the LEM ascent stage had to be painted black. I masked these off carefully and applied the black paint followed by a coat of matte varnish. Using the back of an X-Acto blade, I scraped off some of the black paint where the panels intersected. This exposed the silver paint underneath and was quite an awesome effect. To finish off the LEM, I cut out the thin plastic windows and glued them into the ascent stage using micro crystal clear.
Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. That's 40 feet, down 2.5. Picking up some dust. 4 forward. 4 forward, drifting to the right a little. That's okay. Contact light. Okay, engine stop.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
The astronauts had some stark witness lines which had to be removed with an X-Acto blade. I gave them a wash with Citadel Quick Shade, after which I used a dry brush with white paint to bring out the highlights. The smaller parts were painted using a detail brush. The sprue containing the experiments was coated with gloss black. Once the parts were masked off, they were given a coat of Tamiya flat aluminium. After all of these were assembled, it was finally time to paint the base. I gave the base a coat of Tamiya grey surface primer. Actually, I liked the color of the primer so much that I decided to use it as the final color for the surface of the moon. Picking a color for the lunar shadow was a little more difficult. I sprayed the same grey primer onto the back of 3 plastic spoons and tried out 3 different shades of grey to see which one would work best. I finally opted for a mixture of grey numbers 2 and 3 and named my new color Moon Shadow. I started painting the darker areas by hand, but soon decided to mask off the large area of the eagle's shadow, as it would be easier to apply the paint using an airbrush. Once this had dried, I removed the masks and painted the finer details by hand. thinned down some of the moon shadow paint to create a wash, and proceeded to paint all of the footprints with this thinned down mixture. Using this mixture, I added some detail to the rocks and craters too.
I'm going to step off the limb now. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
With that, I'm calling it done. So long, and thanks for watching.
Ethereal is now unveiling the plaque that is.
Roger, we got you bore-sighted, but back to one side.
Bore-sighted.
For those who haven't read the plaque, we'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this limb. There's two hemispheres, one showing each of the two hemispheres of Earth. Underneath it says, "Dear men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind,